Christmas lights always look colder when you hang them alone. That December in Dallas, the bullseyes strung across the porch blinked like tired eyes in the night. Red, green, blue, cheap plastic pretending to be starlight. The street was quiet, muffled by the kind of southern winter chill that bites without snow. My hands were steady on the ladder, same as they'd been steady on a rifle 60 years ago. 80 years old and still disciplined. Still precise. But what good is discipline when the only thing waiting for you is silence behind the door? Inside, the house smelled faintly of pine and dust. Ellen's old ornaments glimmered on the tree. She's been gone more than a decade, but I still hang them. Out of habit. Out of loyalty. Out of something I can't quite name. My son Mark and daughter Claire rarely ask about her anymore. They stopped asking about me too, except when bills or favors came up. Grandkids? I see them maybe twice a year. They forget my voice between visits. This year I wanted things different. I'd planned for weeks, walking the aisles of stores I hate, squinting under fluorescent lights, searching for something that mattered. A guitar for Josh, the boy once told me music was the only way he could breathe. A telescope for Emma, because she always asked me about stars like I could still chart constellations. Even a leather briefcase for Mark, though he never thanked me for the last one. For Claire, a necklace Ellen would have chosen. Small, silver, plain. Something real. Before I'll tell you what happened next, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thank you. I wrapped every gift myself at the dining table, paper crackling under calloused fingers, ribbons knotted with the same care I once used to tie field gear. I stacked them neatly in the study closet, arranged like an arsenal. I even locked the door, habit from a life where leaving things unsecured meant death. And then, 2 nights before Christmas, I opened that closet. Empty. Every package gone. For a second, I thought maybe I'd misplaced them. That's what Mark and Claire hint at so often. Dad forgets things. He's not as sharp as he used to be. I stood there, staring into the hollow dark, heart pounding slow and heavy. But no, a soldier doesn't forget the layout of his own weapons. I knew exactly where I'd placed each box. Same shelf, same order. Someone had been here. Someone who had the key. My chest went cold. Not like the night air. Colder. Colder than desert mornings. Colder than blood on sand. It wasn't a stranger. No forced entry, no broken luck. This was inside work. Family. My own blood. The next evening confirmed it. I came down the hall just as Claire's voice leaked from the kitchen, low but sharp. If we hide the gifts, Dad will think he lost them. When he looks confused, we'll finally have proof. The lawyer said it'll help with the guardianship papers. Guardianship papers. I stood in the shadow of the hallway, the smell of cinnamon and pine mixing with bile in my throat. My daughter's voice. Cool. Calculated. Plotting to strip me of control, to lock me away while she and her brother picked my life clean like vultures. I pressed a hand to the wall. The plaster felt rough, steadying me. I wasn't dizzy, I wasn't weak, but for the first time in years, I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to believe I'd misheard. But then Mark answered, voice low, almost bored. He's slipping. Everyone sees it. Better now than later. If he resists, the papers will make him look crazy. I closed my eyes. And for a moment, I was back overseas, listening to traitors whisper in a barracks, pretending loyalty while they planned sabotage. The betrayal hit the same way, like hot iron shoved through the ribs. I could have stormed into that kitchen, slammed my fist on the table, demanded answers. But no, that would have been too easy, too expected. Instead, I stepped back, silent as I'd once been in jungles and deserts, retreating to my room. I let them think they were winning. Let them think I was drifting into fog. But inside, something locked into place. That old soldier's calm. The one that comes before a mission. Later that night, I stood by the tree. Lights blinked against ornaments Ellen once held. Her reflection ghosted in the glass frame on the mantel. She used to tell me, Bob, don't let them take advantage of you. She must have known, even then, how greed rots blood ties. I looked at the empty space under the tree where the guitar and telescope should have been. My grandkids would wake to nothing. Mark and Claire wanted it that way, to prove their father had lost his mind. But they were wrong. because the gifts weren't really gone. Not all of them. I'd hidden a few in places they'd never check. And the ones that did vanish? Let's just say I replaced some wrapping with things far more dangerous than toys or trinkets. They wanted to make me look crazy. By the time I was done, the only crazy thing would be their belief that they could outsmart me. Christmas, family, betrayal, it was all the same battlefield now. And I was ready. The house smelled of cinnamon and turkey fat. Claire bustled in the kitchen, clattering pans like cymbals, talking too loud, too cheerful. A fake cheer. The kind you use when you're hiding something. Mark hovered near the dining room doorway, checking his phone every few minutes, his eyes sliding to me whenever he thought I wasn't looking. The grandkids darted through the halls, their laughter bouncing off the walls I'd painted with my own hands 40 years ago. For a moment, if you squinted hard enough, it looked like a normal Christmas. Tree blinking, stockings on the mantel, the warm hum of family noise. But underneath, I smelled the rot. I sat in my chair near the fireplace, mug of coffee black as tar in my hand. I didn't drink it. I just held it steady, letting the heat sting my palm. Observing. Always observing. A soldier never loses that habit. Claire floated in, wiping her hands on a towel. "Dad, you all right? You seem tired." Tired. Always that word. The dagger under the smile. Mark added quickly, "Don't worry about gifts this year, Dad. No need to stress yourself. Everyone understands if you forgot." Forgot. Another blade. I looked at both of them, let the silence stretch. Then I set the mug down and stood. My knees cracked, but my back was straight. "At 7, I said. "We open one gift each." Same as always. Claire blinked. "Maybe tomorrow morning would be better, Dad, when everyone's rested." Her voice was soft, coaxing, like she was talking to a stubborn patient at a clinic. "No," I said. "Tonight." The room shifted. Like soldiers falling into formation when the command voice cuts through. Nobody argued again. At 7 sharp, I rose, walked to the garage, and came back with a box. Brown paper. No ribbons. Heavy. Too heavy for a toy or sweater. I set it down under the tree without a word. Mason, the oldest grandson, looked up from his phone. "What's in it, Grandpa?" His voice cracked with teenage suspicion and curiosity. "You'll see," I said. The room grew quiet. The fire popped once, sharp as a rifle shot. Claire's eyes flicked to Mark, just a second, but enough. A signal of unease. Mark shifted on his feet, thumb tapping the screen of his phone without purpose. I pulled a pocket knife from my belt, slid the blade under the twine, cut clean. My hands didn't shake. They never have. I opened the box. Not toys, not sweaters, documents. Stacks of them, bound in folders, organized with military precision. Bank withdrawals I never made. Signatures and my name on guardianship drafts. A medical statement claiming I was mentally unfit. I'd found them weeks ago after noticing papers in my desk out of order. Copied everything. Put the originals back exactly as they've left them. Now, the copies spilled across the rug like dead birds. Claire's face drained of color. She took a step back, the towel still clutched in her hand. Mark froze, phone halfway to his ear. What is this?" Claire's voice cracked. I stared at her. My tone was level, cold. The voice that once cut through gunfire. "You tell me." Emma, my granddaughter, leaned closer, small fingers brushing a page. She read aloud, halting. "Petition for guardianship, next of kin. Claire Mercer." She looked up, confusion clouding her young eyes. "Mom?" The towel slipped from Claire's hand. "Dad, this isn't what it looks like." Mark jumped in fast, too fast. "You're making a mistake. You've been digging through things you shouldn't." "Sit down," I snapped. The command voice. Hard. Sharp. The same tone I'd used to stop recruits mid-charge. The room froze. Even the grandkids stopped breathing. Silence stretched. The fire hissed. I could hear Emma's shoe scrape nervously against the hardwood. Finally, I leaned back against the mantel. "You wanted me confused. You wanted me weak. You wanted my house, my savings, my life signed away while I sat drooling in a corner. Instead, you gave me time. Time to see you for what you are." Claire stammered, "Dad, It's not like that. We just wanted to make sure you're safe, that you're cared for. Safe? I spat the word like a curse. Is that what you call forging your father's signature? Is that care? Mason whispered, Mom, but she didn't answer. Her lips trembled, but no words came. I bent, gathered the papers back into the box, closed the lid, and tied the twine with deliberate knots. Each pull tight, final, like lashing down equipment before a storm. This isn't the end, I said, my voice low, steady. This is the beginning. I lifted the box, carried it back toward my study. Behind me, the room stayed frozen, air heavy with the weight of their fear. They'd thought Christmas Eve would be my humiliation. Instead, it became their first taste of terror. And as I shut the study door, I felt the old rhythm return. Reconnaissance. Planning. Execution. Step 1 was done. Tomorrow, Step 2 would begin. And they wouldn't see it coming. Morning light spilled through the blinds sharp and unforgiving, cutting the house into stripes of shadow. It was Christmas morning, but the silence was wrong. No rustle of wrapping paper, no squeals of kids tearing boxes, no radio carols humming in the kitchen. Just the hum of the furnace and the distant caw of a crow outside. They kept the grandkids away. I could feel it before I even checked the empty living room. Claire must have decided they didn't need to see drama. What she really meant, they didn't need to see her father tearing apart her lies. Fine by me. Fewer eyes, less noise. Easier to hear the gears turning in their heads. I brewed coffee, black and bitter. My reflection in the kitchen window stared back, jaw set, lines deep, eyes sharp. Not a doting grandpa. Not the confused old man they wanted to paint me as. A soldier still on his post. By 9 o'clock, footsteps stormed down the hall. Mark appeared first. Shirt wrinkled, hair sticking up like he hadn't slept. His phone was clenched in his hand like a weapon. Dad, he started, voice already raised. What you pulled last night? That was insane. Dumping papers in front of the kids? Digging through our private things. I set my mug down carefully. Private things? In my house? In my desk? With my name on every bill? His face flushed. You don't understand. We were just preparing. In case. In case what? I asked. My voice was steel, flat as a blade. In case I lived too long? He faltered, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Claire entered then, quieter, but not softer. She'd always been a strategist. Hair pulled back, jaw tight, a mask of calm that fooled strangers, but never me. Dad, we weren't trying to hurt you. But we can't ignore your lapses. The roast you burned last month. The checks you mixed up. You left the garage open all night. We worry. Worry. I let the word roll out, heavy. And that means you strip me of my life? That means you forge papers. Her lips pressed thin. She had no answer. I stood. My knees cracked, but my stance was solid. Old bones, but still a soldier's posture. You want to test if I'm slipping? I said. Let's test it. Mark frowned. What are you talking about? I walked to the hall closet, pulled down a battered green duffel, set it on the dining table with a thud that shook the cups, zipped it open. Inside was my ledger, thick, heavy, pages yellowed but neat. Decades of discipline.
Every bill paid, every expense logged, every dollar traced with the precision of a drill sergeant. I slapped it on the table. Here, pick a page, any year. Ask me where the money went. See if I forget. Silence. Mark's bravado cracked. His fingers twitched on his phone, but he didn't move closer.
Claire whispered, Dad, this isn't necessary. It's necessary. I cut her off. Because the next time you call me confused, you'll remember this moment. I flipped the book open myself. Random page. June 1987. Grocery total, $124.83. Paid cash. Dentist appointment for Claire, $68.50. New tires for Mark's first car, $312. Check number 1458. I looked up. Want me to tell you the tread brand too? Because I can. Neither spoke. I turned another page. 1994, February. A weekend trip to Houston, hotel room $89. Kids begged for seafood. Bill, $74. I paid it with cash I'd earned working overtime shifts. You remember that trip, Claire? You complained the shrimp was too spicy. Her face blanched. She remembered. Mark muttered, "This doesn't prove anything, it proves everything." My voice cut sharp. My memory is clearer than your conscience. 10 minutes dragged. 10 minutes of them shifting, whispering, avoiding my eyes. I let the silence grind them down. Fear works best in small doses first. Let them taste what it feels like when the ground under their scheme starts to crack. Finally, Mark muttered something about needing air and stormed out to the porch. Claire followed, eyes wet, jaw locked. They left me standing in the dining room with my ledger open, the furnace humming like a low drumbeat of war. I poured myself another coffee. My hand was steady as ever. Then I opened the box of documents again, flipping through their betrayals. Guardianship petitions. Forged medical slips. Bank withdrawals. Step 1 had been exposure. Step 2 was pressure. I didn't need to swing yet. Not with fists, not with courts. Not yet. I just needed them nervous. Second guessing. Wondering how much I knew, how far I'd go. The fire popped behind me. I smiled for the first time in months. The war had begun. By December 27th, the house no longer smelled of cinnamon. It smelled of fear. A sharp, invisible odor, the kind only old soldiers can sense, the sweat of people cornered. Claire avoided me. She busied herself in the kitchen, drawers opening and shutting, pots banging with no reason. Short sentences, no eye contact. Mark went the other way, too much small talk, forced smiles, questions about weather, sports, the neighbor's broken fence. Like a guilty soldier polishing boots, he knows he'll never march in again. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Sloppy men rush into fire. I'd learned to wait, to squeeze instead of swing. The first screw was easy. A single phone call to my bank. 20 years of teaching cadets about vigilance, decades of watching every penny, and still I'd been foolish once. Let Mark be listed as an authorized contact when Ellen was alive. Just in case, we'd said. I revoked it in 5 minutes. Effective immediately, neither of them could touch a dime. The second screw required a trip across town. I drove to the law office of Harold Diaz, an old friend who owed me favors. The man's office smelled of stale coffee and law books that hadn't been dusted in a decade. He looked older, slower, but his mind was still sharp. I slid a copy of the guardianship draft across his desk. He read, lips tightening. "Bob, whoever tried this is either arrogant or stupid. Probably both." He adjusted his glasses. "It's forgery, fraud, elder exploitation. Enough to bury them in court." "Not yet," I said. "I want them to sweat first." "Hold it. When I give the word, we push." Harold leaned back, studying me. "You're not afraid this will break things permanently?" I let out a breath. They already broke it. On the drive home, I stopped at a diner I hadn't visited in years. Ordered black coffee, left it half untouched, just sat and thought. The jukebox played some old country tune about family. I almost laughed at the irony. Back at the house, I planted seeds. At breakfast, I left a stack of canceled checks in plain sight, checks that showed transfers they thought I hadn't noticed. At lunch, I dropped Harold's name casually, watching Claire's fork freeze halfway to her mouth. Fear works better when it's mixed with doubt. Make them wonder, what does he know? How much? Who's helping him? That evening, Mark cracked first. He found me on the porch, the Christmas lights blinking behind his pale face. His phone was clenched tight, but he wasn't dialing. "Dad, listen," he said quickly, voice thin. "We don't need lawyers. This is a misunderstanding. We were just worried about you. About your memory." I leaned closer, breath fogging in the cold. "If you were worried, you should have talked to me, not plotted to bury me." He swallowed. "We can fix this. Just don't wet." I cut him off, my voice a knife. "Don't ruin the little scheme you and your sister cooked up. Don't tell the grandkids who their parents really are." He froze. Couldn't answer. His silence told me everything. I turned away, left him standing in the glow of plastic Christmas bulbs, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. That night, I sat at my desk, pulled out my old field notebook. Not battle reports this time, logs of betrayal. Dates, names, actions. Every slip they made, every crack in their masks. Soldiers keep logs for clarity. Fathers keep them for revenge. I wrote until my hand cramped. Then I closed the notebook and stared at Ellen's picture. Her eyes steady, her mouth half smiling like she knew I'd be forced into this one day. The next phase wouldn't be quiet. No more hints. No more tests. The first real blow was coming. And when it landed, it wouldn't just rattle them. It would break something permanent. December 30th. The tree still blinked in the corner, needles dropping like the house itself was tired of keeping secrets. I sat in my armchair, notebook open, pen scratching names and dates. War log, not diary. Every betrayal catalogued, every crack in their stories recorded. At 11 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. I stood, joints stiff but mind sharp, and opened the door. 2 deputies stood there, coats dusted with sleet, boots dripping onto my porch. Dallas winter isn't heavy with snow, but the damp cold gnaws at bone. Their presence was deliberate. I had arranged this. "Mr. Silvers?" the taller one asked. I nodded. "We're here to serve papers." I stepped aside. "You'll want the kitchen." They're both in there. The smell of reheated turkey hung in the air as Claire appeared first, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her face went white when she saw the uniforms. Mark came in behind her, jaw tight, phone already half-raised like it could shield him. The deputies handed each of them an envelope, thick with legal weight. The sound of paper against paper echoed louder than gunfire. Claire opened hers with shaking fingers. Her lips moved silently as she scanned the text. Then she gasped. "Guardianship? Petition? But this is your work," I said coldly. "Your forgery. Now filed and stamped with a judge's seal. You'll explain it under oath." Mark ripped his envelope open, eyes racing over the pages. His face drained of color. You can't just file this." It is," I cut him off, my voice steady as steel. "Forgery. Fraud. Attempted exploitation of an elder. You'll be lucky if this ends with a hearing instead of handcuffs." The deputies didn't linger. They weren't here to debate. They did their job, nodded to me, and left, their boots echoing across the porch. The door shut. Silence settled, heavy and suffocating. Claire dropped into a chair, hands trembling, towel still clenched like a useless flag of surrender. "Dad, we didn't mean." I snapped, stepping closer. "You forged my name. You plotted to steal my life. That isn't a mistake, Claire. That's intent." She covered her face, shoulders shaking. Mark tried to bluster. "You've ruined us. Do you realize what you've done? This will destroy us." The grandkids, I cut in, leaning over him, my voice low and sharp, deserve to know who their parents are. The truth will come out, whether you fight it or not. He broke eye contact first. Stared at the floor, breathing hard, fists clenched uselessly. I stood straight, letting the silence choke them. Finally, I turned and walked back toward my study, leaving them in the wreckage of their own making. On my desk sat a small wooden box Ellen had given me years ago. Inside were her letters, every one signed with her neat hand. "Don't let them take advantage of you." She had warned me even then. I traced her handwriting with my thumb, then set the box aside. Tonight I had honored her words. But this was just the opening salvo. The deputy's visit was shock and awe, designed to rattle them, to show them the war was real, not imagined. The real fight hadn't even started. And as I sat down, pen scratching in my notebook again, I almost heard Ellen's voice, steady, approving. They thought they had buried me under paperwork. Instead, I had weaponized their own lies. Now the battlefield was mine. And soon, I'd take away far more than their comfort. The morning after the deputies came, the house was quiet, too quiet for the days after Christmas. Normally, the grandkids would be sprawled on the floor with toys, wrappers scattered like battlefield debris. Not this year. Claire had kept them away, afraid of what might slip from my mouth. She wanted to control the story, but stories have a way of breaking loose. Mark cornered me first thing in the kitchen. His voice was sharp, brittle. "Dad, you've humiliated us enough. Do you realize what you've done?" I stirred my coffee, steam curling like smoke from a pistol. I've barely started. He slammed his palm on the counter. Where are your children? I looked him dead in the eye. Children protect their parents. You tried to bury me alive. That shut him up. His lips twitched, but no sound came. He stormed off, muttering curses under his breath. By noon, I was in my truck, heading downtown. Dallas sky hung gray and heavy, rain-slicked streets reflecting red lights like blood on pavement. The bank lobby smelled of disinfectant and paper, sterile, clean, cold. Perfect. The branch manager shook my hand firmly. He was an old acquaintance from my veterans group, a man who'd listened to my stories of discipline and survival. Now he listened to another. I laid it all out: guardianship forgery, suspicious withdrawals, children circling like vultures. His face hardened. Mr. Selvers, we can lock down every account. Remove all authorized contacts. Effective immediately, no one touches a cent without you standing here in person. Do it, I said. My voice didn't waver. Keys clattered, paper shuffled, screens blinked. It was done in minutes. But I didn't stop there. I had them trace insurance policies, updated, revised, with me as the sole decision maker. Pension disbursements redirected. Even the automatic payments Mark had sneakily set up months ago, I shut them down, one by one. Every artery they thought they could bleed was cut clean. By 3 o'clock, their world had changed. Though they didn't know it yet, the lifeline was gone. I drove home slow, savoring the weight of silence. Pulled into the driveway, killed the engine, and sat there watching the lights blink on my porch. Each bulb a reminder: don't underestimate old men. Inside, I poured myself a bourbon. Waited. It didn't take long. The front door slammed open. Footsteps thundered in. Claire first, her face red. Phone clutched like a lifeline snapped. Dad, the mortgage company called. Payments bounced. What the hell did you do? Mark barreled in behind her, shouting. My car insurance got canceled. Do you want us ruined? I leaned back in my chair, glass in hand, fire crackling behind me. Ruined? That's a word for honest men caught in storms. You two built your storm. I just took away your umbrella. Claire's hands trembled. We have kids. You're punishing them too. The kids still have a grandfather, I said coldly. You tried to erase him. Don't confuse the two. Mark's voice dropped to a hiss. You'll regret this. I set my glass down hard enough to rattle the table. I've lived through bullets, desert nights, and men who wanted me in the ground. I don't regret. I endure. Can you? Silence. Heavy. Crushing. They stood there, shadows of the proud children I once raised. Now cornered rats. Finally, Claire broke. Tears streaked her face. Dad, please. We were scared. We thought you'd lose everything. We just wanted to protect what's ours. What's yours? I asked. My voice was steady, ice cold. Nothing here is yours. Not my house. Not my money. Not my name. Everything you touched like thieves. Mark grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the door. His face was pale, jaw clenched. They left without another word. The slam of the door rattled the window panes. That night, when the house settled into uneasy silence, I sat at my desk, opened the notebook, wrote 3 lines. Phase 1, exposure. Phase 2, legal shock. Phase 3, financial cut. I underlined the last word. The pressure was on. But pressure only breaks stone if you keep turning the screw. Next, I wouldn't just strip their wallets. I'd strip their pride. And once that's gone, there's nothing left. The courthouse smelled of old paper and cheap coffee. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in that flat, merciless glow that makes faces look older, weaker. I'd worn my best jacket that morning. The one Ellen used to say made me look like a man in charge. Fitting, because today, charge was exactly what I was taking back. Before I'll tell you what happened next, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thank you. Claire and Mark sat 2 rows ahead, whispering furiously. Claire's hair was too neat, every strand pinned like she was on trial for pageantry, not fraud. Mark's jaw kept working, grinding his molars like he was chewing through barbed wire. Their attorney, A slick fellow with a silk tie kept patting their shoulders as if that could anchor them against the storm. I waited until the clerk called my name. Then I stood, slow, deliberate. My cane tapped once against the tile, a sound sharp enough to silence half the room. "Mr. Selvers," the judge intoned, "your petition regarding the contested guardianship has been reviewed. Do you wish to make a statement?" I stepped forward, every eye fixed on me. My voice came out steady, carrying across the hushed courtroom. "Yes, Your Honor." I brought evidence. The folder in my hand snapped open like a weapon. Pages fanned out across the clerk's table, forged signatures, falsified withdrawals, mortgage documents with my children's handwriting poorly mimicking my own. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Claire's face drained of color. Mark muttered something under his breath, too low for the recorder, but loud enough for me to catch. "Damn old man." The judge adjusted his glasses, scanning the first few pages. His expression tightened. "This is serious. Very serious." I didn't need to add drama. The papers spoke louder than I ever could. But I leaned on the cane, straightened my shoulders, and delivered the final blow. My children conspired to declare me incompetent. They forged my consent. They drained accounts I worked 60 years to build. And when that failed, they threatened to put me away. The silence after those words was thick, suffocating. Even the court reporter paused for a heartbeat before her fingers resumed. Mark sprang up. "He's lying. He's senile." "He sit down," the judge barked. The kind of command soldiers respect. Mark froze, then sank back, red-faced and shaking. Claire tried tears. "Dad, please." "We didn't mean," but I cut her off. "Save it. You meant every word." Reporters scribbled like mad. I'd made sure they were here, a quiet call to a journalist friend from my veterans group. I wanted this story seen, known. My children wanted me invisible. I would make them unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. The judge set his gavel down. Pending a full hearing, all contested authority is revoked. Accounts frozen. Property secured. Until further notice, Mr. Selvers retains full legal autonomy. Bang of the gavel. Echo sharp as a rifle shot. I turned then, slowly, deliberately, scanning the benches. Neighbors. Old colleagues. Even a few from church. They'd all come to watch. And they all saw Claire and Mark pale, cornered, exposed. I didn't smile. Not yet. Vengeance wasn't dessert to savor. It was iron to bite down on. Outside, the press closed in. Flashbulbs popped. Microphones shoved forward. "Mr. Selvers, how long were your children stealing from you? Do you plan to press criminal charges? Is this the end of your family?" I answered none. Just one phrase, cold and clear. They wrote their own end. "I'm just signing it." Claire tried to push past, her mascara streaked, her hands shaking. Reporters swarmed her too, asking if she had forged her own father's signature. Her answer was swallowed in the chaos. Mark cursed at a cameraman and shoved the lens aside, a perfect image for tomorrow's paper. By the time I reached my truck, they looked less like successful professionals and more like rats dragged into daylight. I slid behind the wheel, engine rumbling to life. My reflection in the rearview mirror caught my eye. Tired lines, yes, but steady. Controlled. The war wasn't over. But today, I'd broken their shield. Tomorrow, I'd take the sword. I tapped the steering wheel once, almost like a salute to Ellen. They're finished. And the world knows it. The road stretched out ahead, wet with drizzle, shining under the courthouse lamps. Somewhere behind me, my children were still shouting, still clawing at excuses. Let them. Their fall had just begun. Noon came hard and bright, a winter sun flattening everything to white glare. I brewed coffee twice as strong and set 2 envelopes on the dining table, heavy stock, names in block letters. Claire. Mark. Ellen's photo stood between them like a witness. The recorder on the mantel blinked a steady red dot. Insurance. Not paranoia. Proof. They were punctual. Guilt makes people early. Tires crunched over the patch of gravel I never got around to raking. The doorbell rang once, eager, shaky, then again, as if they could press fast forward on consequence. I opened the door. Claire's mascara was neat this time. She'd rebuilt the mask. Mark wore a suit that tried too hard to be a shield. Inside, I said. They stood by the tree like defendants in a museum lobby. The smell of cold pine, wood ash, old varnish. I gestured to the chairs. They sat. The envelopes waited between their elbows like live grenades. This won't take long, I said. Claire folded her hands. Dad, whatever you think you're about to do, can we please talk first? Just us. This is just us, I said. Talk. She inhaled carefully. We panicked. We were stupid. We thought we were protecting you. It wasn't about money. It was exactly about money, I said. And control. And the part of me you wanted to declare dead while I was still breathing. Mark tried a reasonable tone. Look, even the judge said there'll be a full hearing. Let's withdraw everything. No more press. We fix it quietly. We stand together as a family. Family doesn't forge signatures, I said. Family doesn't practice the word confusion in pencil before they ink it on a form. Mark's eyes flicked to the recorder, then back to me. He forced a smile that didn't reach his face. What do you want? I slid the envelopes across the table. To finish. They didn't touch them. Open them, I said. Mark broke first. He tore his. Claire eased hers with polite fingers, as if manners could dilute the contents. Inside were 4 documents each. The first, a certified copy of the trust, stamped and notarized at 9:14 this morning. The Selvers Trust. Irrevocable. All assets, house, accounts, land retitled into it. Successor trustee, not Claire. Not Mark. Whose North Cross Foundation? Mark asked, voice too casual. A Veterans and Foster Youth Fund, I said. My money buys boots, tuition, warm beds. Not new countertops for you. Claire blinked hard. So we get nothing? Wrong, I said. You get the second document. They lifted the next page. A letter addressed to each of them, 2 sentences long. You are removed as beneficiaries effective immediately. Any future amendment is prohibited. H. Diaz, ESQ. Mark laughed once. A dry bark. Cute. You think this holds? We'll contest. You'll enjoy the third, I said. 2 restraining orders, prepped, not filed, sat beneath. Each with a note in my handwriting. Will file if harassed or if you approach me at home or church. Do not test this. Claire's composure cracked. A hairline heave crossed her throat. Dad, please. The kids, I said, have their own envelopes. I pointed to the credenza. 2 thick packets with names in neat pen, Emma and Josh. 529 plans. College locked. You don't control a cent. I met with their guidance counselor at 9. She cried. Real tears, not theater. Mark's chair scraped. You went around us? I went above you, I said. They stared at the 4th paper last. A single page. My complaint to the district attorney. Elder fraud. Forgery. Attempted exploitation. It bore today's date and a stamped intake number. Claire whispered, you pressed charges. Not yet, I said. I opened a file. It sleeps until I wake it. That depends on you. Mark's jaw worked. What do you want us to do, Beg? Pay penance? You want us ruined. You ruined yourselves, I said. I'm just turning on the lights. He leaned in, hands flat on the table. Dad, be reasonable. Reasonable? I let out a small laugh. It sounded like scraping metal. You wrote a reality where I drool in a corner while you take my name off my mailbox. I wrote one where you can't reach a dime and your children still go to college. Guess which script I prefer. For a long beat, nobody breathed. Dust motes hung in the window beam like suspended snow. Outside, a delivery truck downshifted, engine growling, then faded. Claire reached for Ellen's photo. Stopped herself halfway. He would hate this, she said. She would, I corrected. She'd hate that you made me do it. The recorder blinked. A furnace ticked. The house listened. I pushed back my chair. Stand up. They did. Have it. My voice still carried the old command. We walked to the front door together. The porch boards were cold and honest under our feet. I opened the door wide. Daylight flooded the hallway, the harsh kind that shows what paint can't hide. You're done here, I said. No more keys. No more Sunday drops. No more backdoor favors. I am not your contingency plan. I'm not your bank. I'm not your story. Claire's face went still. Not tears. Something past tears. The place people go right before the fall. Dad, she whispered, please, not like this. Exactly like this, I said. They stepped out. I handed each of them a small box as if it were a party favor. Mark frowned, opened his as he backed down the steps. A thumb drive. Claire's box held the same. What's this? Mark asked. Memories, I said. Copies of your messages, drafts, the version histories you thought you deleted. The judge won't read from my phone. He'll read from yours. He stared at the metal stick in his palm like it might bite. You recorded us? Claire asked. You recorded you, I said. With carelessness. I had just saved it. They stood on the walk, suddenly small in front of the house they used to see as theirs. The pecan tree threw thin winter shadows across their shoes. A breeze carried the smell of someone's dryer sheets from 2 houses over. Ordinary life went on. This isn't over, Mark said, but he said it to the mailbox. It's over when I say it's over, I said. And I say it now. They turned, walked to their car. The engine coughed, caught, idled. For a second, I thought Claire might look back like people do in movies when they want redemption in a glance. She didn't. Good. Clean exits are kinder. When their taillights disappeared, the quiet felt different. Not empty. Clear. I locked the door. Turned the recorder off. The red light died. I carried Ellen's photo back to the mantel. The angel on the tree leaned a little left the way she always did when the stand wasn't level. I left her that way. Imperfect things tell the truth better. I made one last call. The foundation director picked up on the second ring. Mr. Silvers? It's done, I said. Release the first scholarships today. 2 local kids. Start with uniforms and bus passes. The small things matter. They do, she said. Thank you. After I hung up, I wrote 3 lines in the field notebook I've kept since a war most people only know from books. Phase 5, reputation. Complete. Phase 6, legacy secured. Phase 7, terminate contact. I closed the book, poured a small bourbon. Didn't drink it. Just held it until the glass warmed under my hand. Footsteps scuffed the porch. Light ones. A careful knock. Grandpa? Emma's voice, thin through the wood. Mom's phone said you wanted to see us. Is it okay? I opened the door. 2 faces I still recognized without trying. Come in, I said. You've got mail. They sat at the table where their parents had stood. I gave them the thick packets with their names. I kept my voice steady. This is for school, I said. No strings. No access for anyone but you and the trustee. If your parents ask, tell them to talk to me like adults. You don't carry their shame. Emma's eyes shone. Josh swallowed hard and nodded like brave boys do when they are scared and don't want to be. Grandpa, he said, are you okay? Yes, I said. And it was finally true. They left with their envelopes and long hugs that neither of us rushed. The door closed behind them. Afternoon light slid across the floorboards like a slow river. I sat back down, faced the empty chair across from me, and let the quiet fill in the cracks. Revenge isn't rage. Rage burns quick and leaves you with smoke. Revenge is alignment. You take what's twisted and you set it straight. You take a lie and you staple it to the truth in front of witnesses. I lifted the bourbon at last, touched the rim to Ellen's frame like a salute, and said the only words worth leaving behind. You wrote your names on my life. I erased them.